By now, we all know how important it is to develop good habits and what a difference it makes in our day-to-day life. So today's video is about 4 habits to create in 2020. In case you're new here, hi, I'm Mai, and we're going to talk about some habits I think that are going to be very important in making your year a better year. So let's jump right into it. Habit number 1, stop comparing yourself. I know, in today's social media world, it's extremely difficult. You're always seeing something someone's doing, or a way they look, or whatever it is, just something that makes you envious, that makes you start comparing yourself to them. And part of the problem is, at least it was for me, is that I grew up in an environment where it was like, oh, look at what that person's doing, you should do that, or can't you be more like your sibling, or I'm glad you're not like that kid. Just things like that that put it in your head that you constantly had to compare yourself to someone else to know whether you were coming out on the better end or the worst end and things like that. And I think that's true for many of us. And so that is an issue. I would love to give you 2 tips to help you stop comparing yourself to others. Number 1 of these, the sub tip, is figure out what you're unhappy with. Usually, if you're feeling jealous of someone, if you feel the urge to compare yourself, it's because there's something in yourself or in your life that you're unhappy with. If you can figure out what that is, then you can get into the mode of either fixing it or acknowledging it enough that you can distance yourself from that feeling of jealousy and other negative things. That's something I've had to work on a lot in my life. I feel like I am constantly comparing myself, especially since I'm a very competitive person. There's a few things I've had to do once I figure out why I was unhappy with something. 1, I had to work on fixing those things in myself. Or 2, I had to figure out that those things weren't for me anyways. So why would I want them? Or why would I focus on them? It's not me. It's not what I want. It's not what I do. That was something that was very helpful in my life to helping me become a better, confident, self-assured, and not focus on what the Jones are doing. I don't have to keep up with the Joneses. The number 2 tip to help you stop comparing yourself to others is by stop caring what other people think. There was one year, this was many years ago before I was married, and I remember we were celebrating either Thanksgiving or Christmas, and we were almost done with dinner when everyone mentioned that they had different things to do with their in-laws or with their specific families. And I sat there and I realized, oh my goodness, everyone has someone and everyone has something to do, but it's just me. Here I am, I've planned my whole holiday around them, but they have their own stuff in their own family, and they've planned their holiday around all these different things. Yes, I was included because they were having dinner with me, but they had so many other things. And I realized that in my life, I had made so many decisions based on what my family felt and what I thought they would like or not like, or just so many different things like that. And it was that moment that I realized all my decisions affected me. Most of the time it didn't affect other people, at least not to the amount that it affected me, but all my decisions affected me. Why would I make decisions based on what other people think when I'm the one being affected by it? And that was such a huge moment to me. It was so big, I can't even describe it. And it was from that point on that whenever I was making a decision, I stopped and thought, am I making this decision because it's the right decision for me? Because it will help me be happier or progress towards the things or the person I want to be? Or am I making that decision based on how I think someone else will feel or react? And that was a huge moment in my life, and it definitely changed the way I made decisions. Now, it's a very simple story. It might not be as important to you, but you just have to figure out how you can stop caring what other people think. I think if you can figure out why you're unhappy with what you have or who you are, and then work towards either changing it or realizing that you're actually fine or happy with what you have, for some reason, it was just an automatic reaction to start comparing yourself with them. And two, figure out why you care what other people think. The second habit is being happy. I feel like happiness is a choice. I once heard someone speak, and they said, you get good at what you practice. So practice joy. And you've probably heard this in my channel, because when I heard this last year, it was very impactful to me. It hit me right here. You get good at what you practice, so practice joy. And in my head, I changed it to different things. It was, you get good at what you practice, so practice good things. If you're always annoyed at someone, you start doing things to help you have more patience with them. Guess what? You get good at being patient, because that's what you're practicing. If you're constantly unhappy and all you look at are negative things, then you get good at being negative and you get good at being unhappy. So the way to get good at being happy is by practicing happiness. You do things like, if someone does something to you, instead of thinking, they did this to hurt me, they did this to anger me, they did this to annoy me, I mean, anything you can think of, instead, have a paradigm shift and think, okay, let's look at things from their viewpoint. Maybe something else was happening in their lives and they didn't even realize that this was going to be an impact on me. Maybe they meant this to be something positive, and I wasn't having a good day, and so it turned out to be something negative. It could be so many different things. Why not practice thinking of those better things than practice thinking something negative? If it turns out to be something negative, okay, then it turns out to be something negative, and then you have to figure out, what positive thing can I take from this negative experience? I feel like it's always in my life when I practice this, thinking about, okay, what positive thing can I take from this negative experience, that I've been really happy. So many things could go wrong. For the most part, there are some things that are harder than others and take longer time to figure out than others. But in general, I feel like when I think this way, I am a pretty happy person, despite many negative things may be happening. So you get good at what you practice. So practice being happy. That's definitely a habit that would be very beneficial to you in 2020. Number 3 habit is not tolerating junk. There's a lot of videos out there about decluttering and minimalism and things like that. But what I mean by this is that you don't tolerate junk in your home, in your mental space, in your spiritual space, in your home is physical space, right? But in your social space. That's what I meant. In your social space. That means it's more than just decluttering. Decluttering is important in all areas of your life, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, because that's how you learn what things are junky for you. Because before, you're just so used to so many things around you that it seems fine. But once you start getting rid of stuff and you're deciding what's worth keeping and what's not, it teaches you what's important to you and what's not. From that point on, then you know what's junk to you in those areas and what's not. So then don't even tolerate those junks coming into your space. It takes a lot more energy. If you've ever decluttered, it takes so much more energy to declutter than it is just keep it out. It can be easier said than done, because some things you question whether it's good or not, and then you end up having it. But I feel like you have to practice keeping junky things from your sphere. And if that's your home, then instead of making a purchase right away, give yourself a month. I know it sounds like a long time, but give yourself a month. If you haven't forgotten about it, or if you haven't changed your mind about it by then that means that's something that might be worth purchasing, especially if you've thought about how it contributes to your home, if it adds the atmosphere you want in your home or not. Once you do those things and you still feel that way, then that means it's not junk to you. Another way of not tolerating junk in your life is by keeping people who are bringing junky feelings and junky mental states into your personal sphere. Just, gosh, it's just so hard. I just think about the times when I've had people in my life that contributed just that, and I was just like, I have to be a loyal friend, I have to be a better person, I have to improve. So them making me feel this way is on me. But then I realized one day that no matter what I did, I walked away feeling this way. I could not control what they said or what they did. So how am I going to change myself to have my relationship with them be more positive? No, I started decluttering people in my life. I looked at people who, whenever I left their presence, I felt terrible. That could count for social media too. If there's accounts that make you feel bad, even though they're great accounts, if it makes you feel bad, walk away. You can always come back. I've done that before, where I've come back to people I followed previously and I felt fine. I needed that time away to figure myself out, and then I felt fine. But the people I've decluttered in my life that had contributed junk, usually actually they don't end up coming back, because the issues are still usually the same issue. Of course, people can change, and if they change and you guys work so that you're making each other better as friends or as relationships, then okay, yes, bring them back. But don't bring these junky people in your lives. Usually there's all sorts of red flags that they're not the best people for you. But if you're friendly or you're a people pleaser or anything like that, you might be willing to allow it. And it's much harder to declutter people from your life than it is to just not allow them in there in the first place. So do not tolerate junk coming into your home or into your social sphere, because that contributes to your mental and emotional health, and actually physical and spiritual health too, all those areas. So that's a really good habit I would definitely recommend, which is don't tolerate junk into your life. The number 4 habit is journaling. And of course you knew I was going to say journal, because journaling is, I feel like, such a powerful thing. And the reason I feel like you should make journaling a habit is because you can use journaling to discover, reflect, plan, take action on, and do so many things. And I feel like unless you write down ideas you have, things you plan on doing, or reflect back on things you've done or ways you felt, you don't know what the right things, people, actions, ideas are. You haven't given them any thought. You could take out your journal and do those things, and things are so much better. Again, I've said this before, but everyone journals differently. You might not be an everyday journaler. Pay attention to how you feel when you journal, because that's how you know the best kind of journaling for you. You might not be someone who writes long essays, so to speak, like pages and pages of journaling, and you don't have to do that. But I feel like you do need to journal. You need to figure out what works best for you and do it for your own emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual health. I remember I stopped journaling at the end of my high school year. I didn't stop. I just kind of, it was just sporadic thing. I just didn't do it often enough for it to actually have an impact, which is my advice. Be consistent with it. You don't have to do it every day, but be consistent. I did not get back into journaling until after college, and it wasn't until then that I started reflecting and seeing the many things I wouldn't have done or I would have changed if I had taken the time to journal about them enough to know that it wasn't right for me. Like the career I chose was completely the wrong career for me. I don't know if you noticed this, but I am an extrovert. I love people. I love socializing. Usually when I watch YouTube videos, people are always like, yeah, for YouTube videos, I have to up my energy so that I look more animated, or I don't usually speak like this on an everyday basis because I'm just not that energetic. Well, for me, I have to withdraw energy because I don't want to be I don't want to be too much. I don't want to be extra. And so if I had thought about those things, if I had journaled about who I am and the kind of career I wanted, needed, or that fit who I was, I would have chosen a different career because it was definitely not the right career for me. An extrovert in a very introverted field might not lead to the happiest of careers. But everyone's different. It might be different for you, but I'm just saying, like, if I had journaled a lot of different things in my life, I think it would have been different. Now, I love how my life is and I learned from those things. But journaling would have allowed me a lot more self-reflection to realize the things I needed to do or not do in my life. All right, that's it for today's video. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope it helped you. I wish you a tremendous amount of love, happiness in 2020. If you have any comments or any video ideas you want me to do in the future, or you want me to expound upon the ideas I've already mentioned, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you, and then I'll make a video about those things. All right, thank you so much for being here. Remember, if you liked this video and if you found it at all helpful, give it a thumbs up. That helps the channel so much to grow and for others to discover it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.